Timbletin and the Hell Demon of Fire. Introduction. Timbletin, a young boy growing up with his father on a 100-acre farm just outside their nearest city Grandia, had a knack for heroic adventure and had been his intention to defeat the demon who destroyed his home city and friends and killed his mother Henrietta, and while training to make a difference in the world. In this magnificent tale, Timbletin exceeds and is just that. Chapter 1. A Day on the Farm. As the first rays of dawn crept timidly over the horizon, they brushed a golden hue across the sleeping fields of Grandia. The serenity of the rural village was palpable, wrapping itself in a delicate embrace of morning mist and soft bird calls that echoed through the crisp air. Timbletin stirred in his narrow bed, sunlight filtering through the window and casting stripes across the wooden floorboards, a familiar start of another day on the farm. He lay still for a moment, letting the gentle warmth wash over him, reluctant to face the world beyond his dreams. The fragrance of damp earth and the sweet scent of blossoming wildflowers permeated the air, a gentle reminder of the thriving life around him. A soft hum filled his ears, effortlessly merging with the rustle of leaves from the ancient oak that stood guard at the edge of their homestead. That oak was a constant in his life, like his family, who provided a sanctuary against the spiraling uncertainties just beyond their idyllic village. Timbletin pulled himself upright, running a hand through his tousled hair, reflecting on the contrast between the peacefulness surrounding him and the unsettling thoughts that churned quietly in the back of his mind. He could almost feel the weight of responsibility pressing on his chest, a persistent reminder of the training he had begun to undertake as a battle mage. Today, like every day, he followed a routine filled with expected chores, yet each task felt shadowed by an unsettling tide that threatened to pull the village into chaos. Throwing open his window, he embraced the cool breeze that swept through, invigorating him for the morning's tasks. He gazed out at the emerald fields shimmering under the sun, each blade of grass glistening with dew, each plant turning its face toward the light. With a determined inhale, he dressed swiftly, pulling on sturdy clothes that had known the wear of countless days of labor. His first duties awaited him in the barn, where the familiar sounds of clucking hens and bleating goats provided a warm welcome. The barn was Timbletin's sanctuary. He found solace among the gentle creatures who seemed free from the burdens of worry that plagued the humans. He moved with practiced ease, gathering fresh feed for the animals, his hands skilled in the motions. The clamor of the farm awakened with each chore, lulling him into a rhythm that he cherished. Timbletin, a melodic voice called from the doorway, disrupting his thoughts. It was his sister, Alara, her hair cascading in soft curls down her back, her cheeks flushed from the chill of morning. "Good morning, Alara," he replied, a smile breaking across his face, illuminating the tension that had clouded his thoughts about battling the Hell Demon. "Ready to help me milk the goats?" "For you, always," she chirped, her laughter bubbling with warmth, which momentarily melted the anxiety clinging to Timbletin's heart. They worked side by side, their movements synchronized, an unspoken bond flowing between them. As Alara filled the pail with the creamy milk, Timbletin's mind wandered back to their childhood, how they used to frolic together under the same oak tree, concocting tales of adventure where they were heroes who saved the day. But heroism felt different now. The tales lived not just in their minds, but the shadows of reality loomed larger, courtesy of the Hell Demon of Fire that prowled beyond the village, whispering dread into the lives of the villagers. "Do you think it will come here, Tim?" Alara's voice was threaded with worry, pulling him away from his nostalgic reverie. She had paused in her task, her brow furrowing as she met his gaze. "I don't know," he confessed, the weight of uncertainty tracing his words. "But we have to be ready. I've started training." Her eyes widened with a mixture of admiration and concern. "Training? You mean as a battle mage?" "Yes," he nodded, his throat tightening. "I need to protect all of us. I can't let our lives be destroyed." The ferocity of his determination startled even himself. Alara frowned, her youthful innocence momentarily clouded by the realities they faced. "But you're my brother." "Exactly. I'm your brother, and it's my job to keep you safe." He ruffled her hair affectionately, prompting a fit of giggles that momentarily eased the heaviness that hung between them. After finishing the morning chores, the siblings regrouped for breakfast with the rest of their family. The wooden table groaned under the weight of the meal, a vibrant spread of fresh bread, honey, and freshly churned butter accompanied by sweet summer fruit from their trees. The family sat together, laughter and cheerful banter rounding out the anxieties creeping like shadows beneath their smiles. "Timbletin, tell us more about your training," their father, Morovig, encouraged over a mouthful of bread, his voice rich with pride. Timbletin felt his chest swell at the recognition. He launched into tales of his lessons, his voice animated, weaving narratives of ancient spells and the art of breath control. As he spoke, his mother, Liana, watched him, her eyes a mix of concern and affection, yet her proud smile urged him forward. With each detail, he found himself growing bolder, thoughts of the hell demon slipping as he engrossed himself in the thrill of his ambitions. He explained how the trainer, Declan, a grizzled veteran whose tales of battle made his blood hum, had expressed confidence in Timbletin's potential. "You have to believe in yourself, Timbletin. Dreams only materialize when one fights for them." The fiery spirit of Declan inspired him, igniting a hope that perhaps he could indeed become a protector of Granita. "Don't forget, magic is as much about your heart as it is about skill," Declan would often say, words echoing in Timbletin's heart as breakfast continued, and he felt a surge of warmth at the thought of becoming someone who could be more than just the boy who worked the farm. Despite the jovial atmosphere, Timbletin could sense an undercurrent of tension that roamed around the table like a quiet specter. Hushed voices occasionally lingered over discussions about crops and livestock. The looming poverty that tethered their village to despair remained a constant conversation in every household. And so, as the blistering summer sun fully rose, casting long shadows over the bustling farm, Timbletin found himself torn between what he desired, a simple life on the farm, filled with laughter and harmony, and the harsh reality threatening to shatter their world. Once breakfast ended, Timbletin returned to the fields, inhaling the aroma of fresh hay that stirred in the gentle breeze. The rhythmic motions of his tasks kept his mind busy, yet he couldn't shake the feelings that eclipsed his ambitions. He became acutely aware of his self-doubt creeping back. What if he wasn't enough? What if the training didn't prepare him for the chaos that seemed inevitable? As he turned to glance at the oak tree, a familiar sentinel against the horizon, he unwittingly felt a sense of urgency. Change was afoot. Life seemed to pulse with an almost frantic energy, as if each leaf shivered with the whispers of an approaching storm. When the day finally approached evening and the sun dipped low, painting the sky in colors of warm ember, golden and fiery like the hell demon, the world shifted around him. Canaries sang their evening song from the trees, their notes twisted into a haunting melody that wrapped around his heart, filling it with resolve. Once more he engaged in the mundane chores, yet they felt less heavy knowing he was training, preparing himself in the face of rising darkness. As Timbletin swept the barn floor, remnants of straw tangled in his grip, he cast his gaze towards the vast field. Timbletin resolved to transform his newfound fears into strength and understanding. Yet darker thoughts lingered, memories of old tales shared by his grandmother floating through his mind. Stories of the battles fought and the heroes who stood bravely against adversity. He felt a deep yearning for those simpler times, the laughter shared, the freedom of running wild. But he was no longer that child. As twilight fell, a foreboding realization settled in: life was fragile. With clouds looming over their heads, he wondered how long they could remain a simple farm family before the darker shades of fate encroached upon them. "Stay strong," he whispered to himself, feeling a spark of determination igniting. Tomorrow would come, and with it, more training awaited. A chance to embrace his destiny, to rise and protect the life he held dear. Timbletin had to learn to harness the strength fluttering in his chest, to channel it as a beacon for his loved ones. The day on the farm had come to a soft close, but the unease never truly left him. As he made his way back to the warmth of their home, arcane whispers lured him, and with every step, he felt the inevitability of the future breathing down his neck. Tomorrow was not simply another day. It was a day that could forge his path, an adventure born of necessity, a chance to reclaim peace. And so, as he turned inside, closing the door behind him, he felt the precipice of their fate whispering beyond the stillness of his heart. The battle against the darkness was only just beginning. Chapter 2. The Call to Arms. The air lay heavy in the village of Grandia, with an uneasy tension thrumming through the farmers and craftsmen who populated its streets. The once vibrant hum of laughter and the soft rustle of leaves had muted, replaced by a suffocating quiet that left everyone on edge. It was a silence heavy with anticipation, as if the earth itself held its breath, bracing for the unimaginable. Timbletin stood in the middle of the village square, the familiar landmarks of home now starkly out of place. The old oak tree, a guardian for generations of laughter and dreams, now seemed to cast a long shadow, mirroring the dread washing over him. He rubbed his hands together, feeling the cool wood beneath his fingertips as if searching for stability in a world that had suddenly shattered. Only hours earlier, the frantic shouts of a rider arriving from a neighboring village had roused the village from its slumber. Beneath a woven tapestry of turbulent skies, the news of the hell demon of fire had swept through the air like a wildfire, consuming hope and leaving embers of despair in its wake. Grandia was in grave danger. Timbletin. A voice broke through his troubled thoughts, pulling him back to the present. It was Maraide, a sharp-eyed woman known for her wisdom and fiery spirit. Her face, usually lit by playful mischief, was drawn tight with concern. "We need you to gather everyone. They'll listen to you." The weight of her words pressed heavily on his shoulders. He was just a simple farm boy, raised among the golden fields of wheat and the gentle hum of bees. Yet, in that moment, Timbletin realized that he would need to rise above his insecurities, confront the fears that held him captive, and accept the mantle of leadership. Taking a deep breath, he nodded, looking around at the familiar faces now twisted in varying degrees of panic and disbelief. He often wandered the fields with dreams of escaping his responsibilities, yet here he was, standing amid the chaos, feeling the stirrings of unease transform into something stronger. As the sun dipped low in the sky, its golden rays surrendered to a canvas splashed with reds and purples, Timbletin climbed onto a low stone wall that bordered the square. He steadied himself, looking into the eyes of his neighbors, fellow villagers who had shared both joyous harvests and sorrowful farewells over the years. Each face held a story. Each heart carried a piece of the village. "Everyone," he called out, his voice rising above the obtrusive whispers. "I know you've heard the news about Grandia. The hell demon of fire is near. We cannot let fear destroy us." A murmur rippled through the crowd. A mix of fear, disbelief, and a desperate need for reassurance filled the air. He could see it in their eyes, the flickering hope still hidden beneath layers of dread. "Please," he continued, his heart racing. "We've weathered storms before. We are stronger together." He paused, searching for the right words that would ignite their spirit without exacerbating their fears. "We are more than just a collection of individuals. We are a community. And as a community, we can stand against this threat." The murmurs grew louder, voices intertwining in a mess of, "What can we do?" and "We're just farmers." Timbletin clenched his fists, suppressing the rising tide of self-doubt that threatened to overwhelm him. He could not falter in front of them now. He needed to remind them of their shared strength. His mother's voice echoed through his memory. "When we face challenges, we must never forget who we are." It propelled him forward, allowing determination to drown out his worries. "If we prepare now, we can protect our village. We need to gather supplies, strategize a plan, and give ourselves every chance to fight back. Together." His voice rang with authority, surprising even himself. A ripple of energy surged through him as he witnessed the transforming expressions among the villagers. Faces once taut with fear softened, eyes glimmering with newfound resolve. "Yes, Timbletin." A voice suddenly lifted high among the crowd. "Ansel, the village smith. How can we help?" "Gather everyone. Those who can wield a weapon to stand watch, and those who can only offer their hands for labor. We'll create barriers, strengthen our homes. Every effort counts," Timbletin encouraged, the embers of hope fanning into a flickering flame. He felt alive, filled with purpose as he moved among the villagers, stoking their fears into resolve. As they began to disperse and share in his vision, he felt their support encompassing him like an embrace beneath the starlit sky. Amongst the scattered echoes of, "We will fight," and "We will stand," he sensed a shift. The villagers were beginning to see him as someone who could lead them, not just a farm boy but a young man who had the heart of a guardian. Hours passed like grains in an hourglass, and as dusk settled, they convened in the village hall, where once they had celebrated victories over harvest and shared tales of old. Now, the air was thick with something more somber as Timbletin took stock of his men and women, each exuding a commitment to their cause. To each, fear is a choice, and we can choose otherwise. We will sow the seeds of courage amidst the chaos, not surrender to it. We will prove that the bonds of our community are stronger than any demon that threatens us. His words resonated, spilling from the depths of his soul, urging them to grasp hope and resilience. They discussed tactics, examined resources, clarified roles while fatigue strained their features. Yet, even amid whispered doubts and frantic glances, the undercurrent of solidarity pulsed through the room, echoing with the spirit of determination. Timbletin caught glimpses of camaraderie blossoming as hands met shoulders, gazes locked in understanding. There was laughter too, hesitant but rising each time a joke was shared about how fiercely a farmer could defend his land. His heart leapt, a light flickering amidst the shadows of dread. They were not alone. Outside, the stars began to dot the night sky like diamonds scattered upon black velvet. Timbletin stepped outside for a moment, needing to breathe, needing to distance himself from the swirling blend of emotions within the hall. He gazed up, seeking guidance from the heavens, his heart fighting against the turmoil inside. "Will I be enough?" he whispered, his voice caught in the gentle night breeze. But as he looked to the horizon where land met sky, he found a resolve, a reassurance in the vastness of the night. He would not falter. He would stand for his village and protect the spirit they had built together. The night swelled around him, and within the darkness, he felt an awakening, an understanding that his fears, while heavy, would not define him. The narrative of his life was shifting beneath his feet, more beautiful and complex than he had ever imagined. Here, in this sacred little village, he found hope binding them together like an unbreakable chain against uncertainty. With conviction swelling within him, he returned to the hall, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The chapter of their lives was darkening, but within that darkness, a story of resilience began to emerge, one in which he, Timbletin, would play a pivotal role. As he stepped inside, the fervent discussions picked back up, enveloping him in the warm embrace of his community. "We will fight. Together." The words echoed in his heart as he joined them once more, the future now illuminated by their unwavering spirit. Chapter 3. Training for Battle. As dawn broke over the horizon, the sleepy village of Grandia began to stir. The sun cast a golden light across the lush farmlands, glinting off dew-kissed blades of grass. Yet, beneath this serene surface, a palpable tension hung in the air, heavy with the fear of the hell demon of fire looming close. Timbletin sat on the edge of the training grounds, his brow furrowed in deep thought. He stared at the ground, where the grass had begun to fade in patches, a stark reminder of the darkness creeping into their lives. Today was the day he would increase his efforts, not only for himself but for the community that depended on him. He rose with a new sense of purpose, his heart pounding fiercely against his chest. The fright of inadequacy pressed in on him like an ever-tightening vice, but the ember of resolve ignited within was fierce enough to fan the flames of determination. Timbletin was ready to train in ways he had not yet dreamed. He had spent the past few days preparing, immersed in dusty tomes filled with ancient spells, eccentric runes, and accounts of beastly encounters that would test his emerging powers. The villagers had been supportive, some even joining him during his early morning practices, bolstering his spirit with hopeful eyes. Yet, behind each smile lay trembling fear for their future, and that weighed heavily on his heart. Timbletin focused his attention on the obstacle course he and the villagers had erected the previous afternoon, a series of dummies representing beasts and creatures, all designed to test his newly acquired skills. He could feel the anticipation of the day ahead, mingled with uncertainty as he placed his fingers around the warm, leather grip of his staff. "Let's begin," he called out, his voice ringing with an unexpected clarity that cut through the quiet morning air. As he moved toward the first dummy shaped like a clumsily drawn wolf, he felt an anxiety welling within. Taking a deep, steadying breath, he summoned the energy that had flickered to life in his core. In his mind's eye, he saw the images of protection spells and elemental bursts blending together, waiting for his command. With a swish of his hand, he conjured a stream of ice that arched gracefully forward. A burst of blue light enveloped the dummy, encasing it in frost, the wood cracking as it buckled beneath the weight of the unexpected chill. Very good, shouted Alara, one of the more experienced villagers, her fiery red hair whipping around her as she clapped her hands in encouragement. Her support filled him with warmth, encouraging him to push further. Timbletin felt the knot of fear in his stomach unravel slightly, a mixture of pride and gratitude swelling in its wake. At the edge of the training ground, a small group of villagers had gathered to watch. They worked together to keep the training session alive, tossing aside their own fears in the hope of forming a united front against the hell demon of fire. In this gathering, Timbletin saw familiar faces. Old Tom, whose laughter often filled the air when the village was alive with music, young Lila, a spirited and bright-eyed girl whose joy was infectious, and others who made up the lifeblood of the community. Timbletin moved into position again, focusing intently on the next dummy, a fearsome-looking predator. This time, he let his imagination conjure flames, vibrant and alive, feeling warmth spread through the palm of his hand. As he lifted his staff toward it, he translated his emotions into action, the fire igniting with ferocity as it lunged with unfurling tendrils illuminating the dawn. The energy surged and spiraled, directing toward the figure before him, and as it caught the dummy, it flickered and popped with vibrant crackles. Timbletin laughed, a sound that rang out with pure exhilaration, all fears momentarily forgotten in that brief explosion of success. "You did it. You actually did it," cheered Lila, running forward, her enthusiasm contagious. Surrounding him, the villagers erupted into applause, their cheers resonating in the air, full of hope and admiration. Stepping back, he relished the sense of community forming around his training. They were all in this together, bound by the fear of the looming threat, but united, rising ever so resiliently in response. As the sun climbed higher, casting shadows that shifted and danced, Timbletin continued to train, honing not just magic but building camaraderie with each fiery explosion and icy blast. He instructed the eager villagers who joined in, teaching them basic protection spells to prepare for the beasts that prowled beyond the steady fields. Together, they faced off against makeshift enemies, dodging and retreating and striking back with whirling spells. The movement invigorated him, filling the hollow spaces in his mind with a flicker of pride. He was no longer alone in his battle. They were all preparing, drawing strength from one another, bearing the heavy weight of their shared grief as they trained, stoking the flames of resilience within their hearts. After hours of training, they fell into puddles of laughter, exhausted but fulfillingly together. Hearts soared as they exchanged stories of the past, each tale intertwined, precious and bound into the fabric of their lives. Slowly, the conversations began to morph into plans. Whispers of strategies formed on unity, connection, and hope to quell the dangers ahead. Timbletin felt a shift within himself, spurred on by the growing bonds and the certainty that, as daunting as a world shrouded in shadows can seem, he was beginning to thrive on their interconnectedness. The energy swelled around him, a collective spark that brightened even the darkest fears. With each passing hour, doubts transformed, evolving into rebellion against despair, allowing a spark of hope to bloom amongst the villagers. As evening approached, casting its soft, golden hues across the tranquil surroundings, the villagers began to gather in a circle around Timbletin. They shared their stories of loss, a necessary catharsis, but also of enduring spirit. The weight of what had been united them, what they could still become was revealed, transformative against the ferocity of suppression they faced. "Together, we will find our way. We will not allow the hell demon of fire to extinguish our light," Timbletin declared, his voice steady, his heart thrumming with conviction. The villagers raised their arms, united in the dawning realization of their combined strength. "Definitely. Courage is our steady foundation." Timbletin's words resonated into the evening like a clarion call, igniting passions of unity among them. With that, they broke into laughter again, mingled with the rise of strength, the hope shimmering within each soul. As the sun dipped behind the horizon, leaving streaks of deep purple and orange painting the sky, Timbletin felt a sense of peace wash over him. He was not only training to fight against the hell demon of fire, he was also nurturing a community prepared to stand together. Already the embers of his spirit had begun to blaze with an inferno of potential, a fire fueled not just by physical strength but illuminated by the bonds formed through shared fears and hopes. Yet, deep in the recesses of his mind, he recognized that the true battle lay ahead, and the next challenge they would face would call upon all they had forged that day. As night fell, he headed home, looking across the fields where shadows deepened. Known preparation did not cease with the setting sun. Tomorrow would demand even more courage, and at dawn, they would rise again, because in this land, his family and neighbors were worth every ounce of struggle. Thus the chapter closed, yet the story continued on the horizon, ever unfolding toward the unpredictable future.